All right, guys, it's time to have a little chat. So, as I stated from the get-go, I wanted to make this channel not only beauty related or hair related or, things to do with the beauty industry, but I also wanted to talk about mental health. And I want to start with this video. And, excuse me, cat. With this video, I want to start the discussion of mental health with depression, because I feel like a good portion of us struggle with depression. And when I say a good portion, I mean actually a pretty hefty portion of us in this world struggle with depression. And it's kind of alarming, but also not, with how many people in this world, or even just in the US alone, struggle with depression. A little bit about me and my struggles is that I've struggled with depression for many, many years. And when I say many, many years, I think the first time I really experienced it that I can remember is probably, I want to say I was like in the 5th or 6th grade when the first time I experienced depression. I didn't know what was going on. I just felt really lethargic. I felt like almost numb to what was going on around me, and I didn't know like how to handle it. I didn't know what to say or do. I remember my parents getting really frustrated with me because I was struggling to complete certain tasks, and like tasks like chores, and it was a struggle initially, just like I'm sure it was a struggle for you if you deal with a depression. And a lot of times depression also coincides with anxiety. And when I experienced my first anxiety attack, I was like 14, 15 years old. And that was when my depression really started to get bad. And I actually think I experienced anxiety before that, but it was minor. And so like I used to bite my nails a lot. I still bite my nails sometimes when my anxiety is really high. I would like bounce my knee, tap my fingers, like do anything like in a like agitated way, But yeah, so I've been dealing with depression for quite some time. And I know a lot of my friends and family also deal with depression, and it's a daily struggle. It's a constant struggle. I've lost friends from it, which is heartbreaking to think about. I know people who have lost friends and family from it. It is a beast. It's a beast. So I wanted to go into some statistics regarding depression. For one, 11.3% of adults have experienced a major depressive episode within this past year. So 11.3% maybe doesn't sound like such a big percentage, but it's actually humongous. That's millions of people that have had these depressive episodes. 8.7% of women have depression and 5.3% of men have depression. Again, it's just a statistic. So if you are a man and you're hearing this statistic, I don't want you to get up in arms and be like, well, men suffer depression just as much as women do. They do. They really do. I think that the stigma around depression in males actually needs to be broken down, because I know so many men who deal with depression. It's not just women who deal with it. It's everybody, As of 300 million people around the world have depression, and they struggle with it on a day-to-day basis. So just know, with me saying these things, you're not alone. It may seem like it. You may get those feelings, where you're thinking, I'm alone. I have nobody. Nobody's here for me. You have these voices in the back of your head that are saying these terrible things to you and about you, but they aren't true. There are people around you. You have someone who can relate, who can help you. You have people. So just remember that, or at least try to. I know it's a struggle. It's a struggle that I deal with. 11 million US adults experienced an episode that resulted in severe impairment just this past year. That's intense. It's intense. And that's a lot. And by impairment, it means that they either did something to themselves in a depressive episode that, you know, put them in the hospital or, you know, somewhere else. It also means that as their depression got worse, they developed something else. So there have been people who have developed depression or, you know, have depression, and as it develops and gets worse and worse, they develop other issues. I know of one case where a person she developed Tourette's, and now she's got Tourette syndrome as well as depression. I know someone who within his depression developed like a speech impediment, basically. He ended up getting speech issues. Not necessarily a stutter, but just an impairment. So that's basically what that means, is when they say that they developed or it resulted in or developed a severe impairment, that's what they're talking about. And then nearly 50% of all people diagnosed with depression are also diagnosed with the anxiety disorder, which I said earlier. But that's basically, you know, those are some basic stats that come with depression. I know that I have anxiety, really bad anxiety. There are moments where I like have to take a step back and like center myself and regroup, because I know that I'm kind of falling into myself. So depression is a really big deal. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk about mental health, and specifically depression and anxiety, is because it's huge. And there's this stigma around these mental health issues that we shouldn't talk about it. We should keep it hush hush. That this is something that we should be able to handle on our own, or in the privacy of, you know, a therapist's office, or you know, your own home or whatever. And that's not true. I don't believe that is how we should handle this. I don't believe that's how we should handle mental illnesses. I believe that we should talk about this on a daily basis. I believe that we should be able to have a conversation with someone and say, yeah, I totally deal with depression. And they're not going to look at us like, did she just say that out loud? Did he just say that and put that into an existence? Like, this is something that people are dealing with all the time. You know, I want to end the stigma that we can't talk about mental health or mental illnesses, because that stigma needs to end. So many people, I know so many people who deal with depression and anxiety and PTSD and, like, you know, bipolar disorder and, you know, all these different mental health issues. And I really want to end the stigma of, you know, we need to talk about that behind closed doors. That needs to end. This is something that affects so many people every single day. Every single day. And it needs, the discussion about it needs to become more normal. It needs to become a normal thing to talk about. And I do believe that we're getting there, slowly but surely. But we also need to recognize that it's not something that just happens in women. This is something that men deal with too. I know a lot of men who deal with depression, and alongside the depression, they also deal with anxiety. You know, there's also the stigma with men where it's like, oh, well, you know, he's a man. He has to be strong. He can't be depressed. He's a man. You know, he has to have his shit together or whatever. I'm sorry, but no. That doesn't work. That doesn't cut it. Just because he's a man doesn't mean that he isn't allowed to feel. Because that's what depression is. Depression is feeling. It's feeling all the things at once, but also feeling nothing at the same time. Depression is laying in bed because you feel like you physically cannot get out of bed. Depression is being, you know, a toxic person in someone's life because you can sound like a negative person, or you don't want to do certain things, or you might snap at somebody, or you just, you know, you hold something in for so long and it builds and it builds and it builds. And not only is it building on you internally, but it's also building around you and around the people in your life. And then sooner or later you explode. And that explosion is so big that you're not only hurting yourself during that explosion, but you're hurting the other people around you. Depression is a lot of things. And there's different kinds of depression. There's manic depression. There's seasonal depression. You know, there's so many different kinds out there. And it's important for you as an individual to be able to understand what exactly, you know, you're living with. I'm not going to say what you're dealing with. It's what you're living with. It is what we live with every single day. I live with my depression every single day. I have moments throughout my day where I can feel myself sinking deeper and deeper. There have been days where I wake up and I just feel so incredibly lethargic and tired and just like this feeling of I can't move overcomes me. It's overwhelming sometimes. Like there are days I physically cannot get out of bed. Like it takes all of my strength to get myself out of bed. You know, I know people who their depression was so bad that they, you know, didn't brush their hair for months, and it ended up, you know, knotting and matting up, and then, you know, finally when they come out of this depressive episode, they finally are able to take care of it. But then by the time, you know, that sometimes by the time that happens, it's an even, you know, what's happening on the outside, because they were on the inside for so long, what's happening on the outside is a lot worse than maybe what they thought. Depression is so many things. Like it's different for everyone. And that's the thing that we have to understand with this. Depression is different for everyone. We all deal with it in different ways. We all handle it in different ways. And some of us don't deal with it either. Some of us push it to the back of our minds and are like, no, it's fine. I'm fine. I don't have to face this truth about myself. I can handle it on my own. And, you know, it can work for some people, but ultimately it's something that has to be dealt with later on. You know, I encourage everyone, regardless if you have mental health issues or not, I encourage everyone to see a therapist, to talk to someone who isn't a friend or a family member. Because when you talk to a therapist, this person is a stranger. And yeah, you know, they are getting to know you, but they're getting to know you on a different level than a friend or a family member would. And they're able to recognize and pinpoint certain things when you're talking to them and give you tools to help you out. So, you know, I see a therapist, and my therapist has given me so many tools. She's given me, you know, things to read, things to, like tools that'll help me when I can feel certain things coming on. Or like if I'm dealing with a certain episode, or something, like she gives me tools, and, you know, she gives me materials to read. She gives, like, it's just all of these things, you know, breathing techniques, grounding techniques. It's so important to be able to know how to ground yourself when an episode is coming on, whether that be an anxiety attack or a depressive episode, whatever. These professionals can help you. And I encourage everyone. I really do. I encourage everyone to seek out help in some form or another. If you don't feel like seeing a therapist, I understand. It's intimidating. It's scary. It takes a lot of strength to be able to do that. It really does. If you don't feel comfortable seeing a therapist, I have some other tools to help you out. Another tool is, and I know a lot of people do struggle with this, especially in this day and age with, with all the processed foods that we have now, but, eating healthy, it's insane how much your diet affects your insides. Like, not just your colon or your stomach or your liver or whatever, but also your brain and the chemicals and the chemicals that your brain produces. What you ingest directly affects that as well. Literally, what you ingest directly affects every part of your body. So having a healthy diet helps a lot. It really does. If you're a person that eats fast food regularly and you notice that you are depressed more often than not, then, maybe change up your diet a little bit. Maybe start, cooking for yourself more and, eating a little bit cleaner. It's not to say you can't eat fast food. It's just don't eat it so much, or don't eat processed foods so much. Another thing that helps a lot is exercise. I know that not all of us, when we hear exercise, we all kind of just go, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go, get on a treadmill and run for 30 minutes. Exercise doesn't mean you have to go to the gym. Exercise can be, doing some stretches in the morning, or, doing some light yoga, or even, going for a walk once a day or once every other day or something. And going outside actually helps a lot, really. Getting vitamin D, you wouldn't really think about it consciously, but if you go outside and you get at least 5 to 10 minutes of sun, and even if it's cloudy outside and just kind of gross looking, still go outside and get some air, get some fresh air, and just kind of take in your surroundings. That helps a lot. It really, really does. Even if the sun isn't shining directly on you, you're still getting that vitamin D, which is helping so much. And exercise does help. I personally like going to the gym. I try to go to the gym at least 4 to 5 times a week, because that genuinely helps me stay out of my head. Because when I get depressed, I get into my head and I go on just a whirlwind of all the emotions and simultaneously not feeling anything at all. So I go to the gym at least 4 to 5 times a week. If I don't go to the gym, I try to do some, light yoga at home, or, get some extra steps in if I'm stopping at the grocery store on the way from on the way home from work or whatever. It's the little things, doing little things here and there. Another side effect of someone who deals with depression is sometimes their life becomes a mess. And when I say that, I mean, the living space that they're in becomes a mess. They're just tossing laundry on the floor and letting their room become a messy place. They're not cleaning the dishes. They're not keeping you're not keeping your space clean. So maintaining a clean and organized space helps a lot with that as well. Even if you're just doing one load of laundry, and putting away that load of laundry after it's completed helps. You don't consciously think oh yeah, this doing laundry totally helps me, stay sane. No one ever thinks that. When we think about laundry, we're like, ugh, I don't want to do that. That sounds just annoying. And I get it. I do. I have those moments where I'm like, oh, look, I really need to do laundry and I really don't want to do laundry. But I do it anyway because I know at the end of the day, it's going to make me feel a lot better. And it's going to make my space, my surrounding feel a lot better. And that's basically what I mean is, be aware of your surroundings. That helps so much. If your surroundings are messy or toxic, it is going to weigh you down. I was in a toxic relationship for quite some time, and I can tell you right now, when my relationship got toxic, my depression was at an all-time high. And not only was I bringing myself down, but I was bringing others down around me. So just be aware of your surroundings. So, eat a little healthier. Get a little bit more exercise in. Be aware of your surroundings. Manage your life a little bit better. That might kind of sound like a harsh way to put it, but, make a schedule for yourself if you have to. Like say, okay, an hour out of this day, I'm going to exercise. Or for 30 minutes, I'm going to read, a book. Or for 30 minutes, I'm going to do some stretching and light yoga. Or I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk with my dog or something. Or even by yourself. Or hey, maybe even ask a friend like, hey, would you be down, do you want to go for a walk with me? Do you want to go to the park or something, Or, and that's the other thing too, is don't be afraid to reach out. I know it's hard because we all feel like we can handle this on our own. I know I'm a person that feels that way. I am someone that feels like, no, I don't need anybody. I got this. I can do this. I don't need help. But then I realized, no, actually, it would be nice to have a little help. It'd be nice to have someone on my team, And when I made that realization, it helped a lot. So don't be afraid to reach out. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member. If you feel like you can't reach out to those kinds of people, then that's when I would say, like, maybe reach out to a therapist. And there are hotlines that you can call. There are numbers that you can call. There are apps out there that you can use that'll help. There are so many outlets now that we can utilize to help ourselves and our mental health. And I just really encouraged you to use those outlets. It's important, because if you don't utilize outlets that you have available to you, you're just allowing yourself to sink deeper and deeper. You're allowing your depression to control your life. And ultimately, we cannot let that happen. As human beings, we cannot allow our depression and our anxiety and our mental health issues to dictate how we live our lives. Because if we did, I'm pretty sure a lot of us would be in much darker places than we are right now. So I really encourage you guys to seek help, to, utilize the outlets and the things that we have available to us. Don't be afraid to reach out to a friend. Don't be afraid to reach out to a family member, because I guarantee you they are going to appreciate you more for reaching out than not and trying to handle it on yourself or by yourself. It's hard to deal with this stuff. Trust me, I know. I really know. But there are ways to overcome it, and there are ways that you can overcome yourself. I recently heard something that made a lot of sense to me and honestly hit home for me. And that was, my depression made me a happier person. And basically, what that means is I recognize the depression in me. And because I recognize it, I'm able to work on it and better my life. And I feel like I really resonate with that saying. So I've kind of been saying it to myself every single day when I wake up. My depression has made me a happier person. And when I say those words to myself, it makes me feel stronger. And if those words help you feel stronger, that's awesome. I want you to say that. One thing that I know also helps people is writing words of affirmation on sticky notes and sticking it on a mirror. And so every morning when you wake up and you go into the bathroom and or if you're brushing your teeth before you head out or whatever, and you see all these words of affirmation, it helps you. It's encouraging. It really is. So, yeah, I guess that's how I'm going to end this video is, it's intimidating to seek out help, but it's important that you do. And I hope that this video helps you a little bit. And if you feel like you can't reach out to anyone, don't hesitate to reach out to me, because I'd be happy to help. I'd be happy to be that person that you can talk to, honestly. So I really hope that we can end the stigma of not being able to talk about these things. And I hope that we can make this conversation a little bit more normal. So with that being said, I just want to say that you are strong, you are beautiful, you have so much talent and so much potential, and you are worthy. You are worthy. And I love you. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful afternoon, a wonderful evening, a wonderful life. And I hope this video helped in some way or form. I love you guys.